Shalom Tiferet alumni. This is Rabbi Azriel Rosner coming to you from Ramat Beit Shemesh here in Eretz Israel with a short shir and some thoughts from Parashat Masei. We know that so many of you are davening and thinking about the situation here in Eretz Israel, the difficult situation that we currently find ourselves in. And really, Parashat Masei is the exact parsha that really discusses some very important thoughts connected to the current situation. It says in Perek Lamed Gimel of Parashat Masei, Pasuk Nun Gimel, "V'horashtem et haaretz v'shavtem ba, ki lachem natati et haaretz lareshet ota." You shall conquer the land and settle in it, because I have given to you the land to inherit. According to the Ramban, a very famous Ramban al HaTorah, which is found in this week's Parsha, as well in several other places in the Ramban, this is not just a possibility, a prediction for the future. Rather, says the Ramban, al da'ati zo mitzvat aseihi. This is one of the 613, one of the positive commandments. Yitzaveh otam sheyeshvu ba'aretz v'yirshu ota ki hu nitzna lehem. That we are being commanded to settle in the land and conquer it because it is given to us. And in fact, of course, that's so appropriate for right now, that there are so many holy chayalim who are fighting for Eretz Yisrael. And it's funny because I heard a comment from someone who said, I feel so bad for the chayalim, and I feel so bad for the people living in Eretz Yisrael. And I thought to myself, that's not really the right way to phrase it. You can feel worried about the chayalim and worried about the situation in Eretz Yisrael, but don't feel bad, because feeling bad means that they're in you feel bad that they're in a bad situation. But really, if you look at this parsha, it's telling us that these soldiers, they are so kedoshim. They are being mekayim this mitzvah of settling and conquering Eretz Yisrael. And really, everyone who is in Eretz Yisrael right now and is staying strong, kal v'chomer ben benoshel kal v'chomer, the chayalim who are mamash putting themselves in a makom sakana, into dangerous situations every day for the sake of Eretz Yisrael, for the sake of Am Yisrael, they are fulfilling the mitzvah of this week's parsha with such hidur, in such the highest level, that we should feel very worried for them on a physical level, but on a spiritual level, they are reaching heights that we can't even imagine, that we can't even possibly fathom. When Be'ezrat Hashem, the current military situation should be over safely and successfully and quickly. And when each and every one of those chayalim, and every one of them, Datiyim, Chilonim, doesn't matter, when they all come back, Be'ezrat Hashem, safely from the battlefront, we should be begging them to give us brachot, because they are such Kedoshei Elyon for having been mekayim this mitzvah in the most mahadrin way that's possible. So yes, we certainly worry about each one of those chayalim, and we daven for each of those chayalim, but they really have zchuyot that most of us can't even possibly imagine. So I don't feel bad for them. I just feel worried for them. The psukim continue. I want to share another thought. V'im lo torishu et yoshvei haaretz mipnechem. If you do not inherit the others who are dwelling in the land, v'haya asher totiru mehem l'sikim be'enechem v'litzninim betzidechem. Those who remain, they will be like thorns in your eyes, and like sninim. Sninim is a little bit difficult to translate. It either means thorns, or the Ibn Ezra says makot, that they'll be like hits on your sides. Thorns in your eyes and sninim on your sides. Right? We understand that having enemies living in Eretz Yisrael is certainly problematic for us. We are certainly experiencing that right now. But what does this phrase mean? This of thorns in your eyes and sninim in your sides. What is that coming to teach us? Why those parts of the body specifically? So I thought that the word eyes is really a very interesting part of the body metaphorically in Tanakh. We know that eyes obviously is the part of the body that you look with, that you look around and you see things and you analyze. In Tanakh in general, eyes seem to symbolize your attention. You give attention to something by looking at it, by staring at it. So when it says "L'sikim be'enechem," that the nations who dwell in Eretz Yisrael will be like thorns in your eyes, I think what it may be telling us is that the things that you ought to be giving attention to, your priorities in life, if you are living amongst your enemies, those priorities are going to become confused. Only when we are living in Eretz Yisrael, in Medinat Yisrael, with Am Yisrael, then we are able to focus to realize what really is important in our lives and not get distracted by other things. So the first thing that it's telling us is that to avoid other nations of the world living in Eretz Yisrael, because they will be distractions to our priorities. And that certainly is something that's appropriate nowadays. The other thing is tsninim b'tzidechem, in your sides. Your sides, that's a even funnier, even stranger part of the body to focus on. Why your side? So when you look in Tanakh, I think the word sad, to translate it as side, is a little bit misleading. Side, we usually think, if I say your sides, you probably think, oh, not my front, not my back, my side, the side of my body. So if that sounds very strange. But the truth is, the word sad in Tanakh doesn't always mean, or doesn't stress, the side as opposed to the front and the back. After all, the first time the word sad appears in Tanakh is in the Teva of Noah, and it says, "Upetach hateva b'tzidah tasim." Put the door to the Teva on the side. Now there, it's not referring to front, back. There is no front and back. It's a rectangle. There is nothing else. If anything, the door is on the front. That is the door. That's the front. So what does it mean on the side? So I was thinking that side really symbolizes then something that it only is on part of the body and not all of it. You only see one side. It doesn't mean as opposed to the front or the back, but it means as opposed to the other side. For example, the word sad comes up in terms of the menorah. It talks about 3 branches coming from one side and the other coming from the other side. So what does that mean? What might that mean in terms of sninim b'tzidechem? Perhaps the idea is that having enemies living amongst you might cause you to choose sides. One of the things we've seen in the past month has been a tremendous achdut, unity of Klal Yisrael. And sometimes that achdut, that unity, can get distracted when things become tense. Unfortunately, even now, we would love to see a greater unity of purpose, and there is a tremendous unity in Klal Yisrael now. But even now, there are difficulties that come up. So perhaps the idea of tsninim b'tzidechem is that we really want a real strong achdut in all of Am Yisrael, and we don't want anything distracting from that. So perhaps that's the message of tzikim be'enechem, that we should refocus on our priorities, what is really important in our lives, and with tzninim b'tzidechem, we should focus on unity of Klal Yisrael, of really respecting and loving all of Am Yisrael. Hopefully these messages, hopefully these 2 foci will enable us to be successful in the current military operation, and be'ezrat Hashem, as we said before, that our holy soldiers will come back safely, successfully, and quickly. Have a good Shabbos.